Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a color grading tutorial using Adobe Lightroom. Today we're going to be taking you through our presets in the cinematic preset pack, and we're going to be editing this photo. So it went from looking like this to looking like this. Now this is using the Cinematic 6 preset in our preset pack, which you can find on our website here. That's the Cinematic Film Look preset pack, and you can see all the different effects you can get using this preset pack. So we're going to be taking you through that today, and hopefully you guys can get an idea on how you can edit in a cinematic style. And if you want to go ahead, you can purchase this preset pack from the link below. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to reset this image, and we're going to start from scratch. Okay, so this is a RAW file. If you guys are editing, I recommend you use a RAW file if you can. So this is the photo we're going to be going for today. The first thing I'm going to be doing is trying to introduce some contrast into this image, and we're going to be sorting out the exposure. So we're going to be working on the basics panel first, and then we're going to work our way through this image. Okay, so before we do that, it'd be great if you guys could subscribe to the channel if you found this video useful. It would be absolutely awesome if you could also turn on post notifications as well, so you can see when we post onto YouTube. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to the temperature slider, and I think we're going to cool it down a little bit. We're going to cool it down probably to around 4,000, 4,100. I reckon something like that is probably what we're looking for. I'm going to leave the tint slider alone in this case, just because I think it can sort of ruin the image ever so slightly if you do spend too much time on there. One thing that's quite good to do if you're doing a cinematic color grade is, because there's no specific color that you're going for that's different from most images, you want to get your contrast slider and drag the contrast down, so then you have a better idea of what you can do with the colors later on. So we're going to drag the contrast down, then we're going to drag the highlights down, and we're going to also just pick up those shadows all the way up so we can kind of see what's going on in this image. Now this image is going to look very, very flat for the time being, but we are going to come back and boost the contrast in just a bit once we've done the colours. So increase the whites to about 30, somewhere around there is usually a good bet, and then drop the blacks to about -20. So you can see what we've done here is we've introduced a little bit more contrast by putting in the whites and also the blacks. I tend to like to increase the vibrance in some of these cinematic colours, just because I like to make the image pop quite a bit. Okay, so we're going to skip the tone curve just for now, and we're going to go onto the colours like I said. Now in this case, I want to really mess around with these flowers in the background. I really think we're going to bring out some really cool colours using the flowers in the background. So I'm going to drop the reds down to about -30, and the main colours here we're looking at are the oranges and also the yellows. So we're going to get the oranges and we're going to drag those up to about +10. We're then going to get the yellow slider and drag those up to about +30, and you can really see now that that's kind of changing the colour of those flowers in the background. The next thing we're going to do is come onto the greens, and we're just going to really boost those about +70, just to bring out the really, really vibrant green colour there. Moving on to the aquas and blues, there aren't really many aquas and blues in this image, but I like to sort of bring in a kind of small amount of teal. You see a lot of cinematic color grades have a lot of teal in their images. So to achieve that, we drop the aquas down into the green slide, and then we're going to counteract that ever so slightly with the blue slider by dragging that up to about +13, +15 around here, just to sort of level it out a bit so it doesn't look too green. We're going to leave the purples and magentas alone, because to be honest there aren't really much of that going on in this photo. Now the next thing we're going to do is come onto the saturation slider, and we're going to increase both the red and the orange to about +30 on each. +40 I think would be good. So about there is a good amount. So this is really going to boost the saturation of these flowers here. We're then going to get the yellows and the greens and desaturate the yellows to about -70, decrease the greens to about -50, -40, and this is just going to really sort of flatten out these greens of the bush here. The main colours we want to pop in this image are going to be the flowers in the foreground here. Now for the aquas, we're going to leave the aquas where they are, but the blues, we're going to increase those, just going to boost a bit of the blues in the image. We want those to stand out a little bit more. There's a bit of blue here in the watch and also the jean shorts here. So we're going to try and boost those colours ever so slightly, and then just for argument's sake, we're just going to get rid of some of the saturation, some of the purples and also the magentas, just because if there are any colours leaking through, we don't really want those to show in this colour grade. The next thing is the luminance. Now luminance is basically just the brightness or the exposure of each individual colour in the image. In this case, we're going to get the luminance of the red slider, and we're really going to increase the luminance quite high, somewhere around 80. Now that is going to depend massively on your image, because you may find in your image that actually that tends to ruin the skin tone, that's too bright. So just mess around until you get something that you like the look of. I've gone ahead and introduced a bit more luminance into the orange, nothing too much, about 20 will do fine. As for the yellows, that's going to affect the greens and yellows in the flowers and the leaves here. So we're going to boost those a bit more, about plus 60, just to bring it out a little bit more. And then the greens, we're going to drop the greens to minus 20, minus some 15, somewhere around there, just to sort of introduce a little bit more contrast into those leaves. So again, the flowers here stand out. As for the aquas and blues, we're going to introduce a bit more exposure into the aquas, about plus 20, and into the blues about plus 50, just so those colours pop a little bit more. And then again, we're leaving the purples and magentas alone. So that's it for the HSL slider. I'm going to close that up, and we're going to come back up to the basics panel. And like I said earlier, I wanted to mess around with the colours first before I went in and adjusted the contrast, just because I can see more of the colours now, whereas if I put it back up to 0, you can see it's a slightly darker image. But in this case, I think it's going to look quite nice if we put some more contrast in the image. I tend to put quite a bit of contrast in the cinematic color grade, just because I kind of like the look it gives. Now we're going to come onto the tone curve, and we're going to do a very, very subtle tone curve. So you're going to put a point here and a point somewhere around here. We're going to increase the highlights very slightly. We're going to increase the shadows because we want to bring out a little bit more detail down there in the shadows, and we're going to introduce a small amount of fade as well. Nothing too drastic, but you can see what we've done here is lightened up the highlights, lifted up the shadows, and also introduced some fade. The next thing where this image really comes to life is going to be on the split toning. Now, I tend to try and use complementary colours, so you can go for oranges and blues. If you look up the color wheel, you can see the complementary colors. So in this case, we're gonna, if you press Alt on your keyboard, you can slide it along and see the colors. I'm gonna go for an orange, so somewhere around 24 is fine. I'm then gonna introduce some saturation, and in this case, we're gonna put a lot of saturation on. About 20% saturation, I think, is quite a good place to sit. And then we're gonna go to about the blues, somewhere around here, 235, 230, 225 is probably a good bet. And again, with the saturation there, 16, 15 is a good bet for the saturation there. And then you can see this really works quite nicely. We've got complementary colors working in the shadows and the highlights, and that's a really good thing to think about when you are doing these sorts of color grades. So I'm going to go ahead and close up the split toning. And before I do go on, I'm just going to quickly say, if you could go check me out on Instagram, it would be great. My Instagram handle is Sebastian_JWB. Just go follow me over there. It would be absolutely awesome if you could drop a like on one of my images. And also my brother, Matthew_GKB. He's got some really cool photos coming up now on his Instagram, so go check us out over there. But without any further ado, let's continue with this color grading tutorial. We're almost finished, actually. We're just going to come down to camera calibration, and this is really where we're going to bring the image to life. So if I press the before by pressing backslash, you can see what this image looked like before, and then the after, you can see what it looks like now. So you can see this is not the image that we had showing beforehand, this one here. As you can see on the cover of our product, but this is where we're really going to bring it to life using the camera calibration. So we're going to come to the red primary, and we're going to increase that to about 50%, and then we're going to come to the blue primary, and we're going to decrease that all the way to -100, and suddenly this image really pops. Suddenly you get these really vibrant oranges, these really nice teals in the photo, and it just all comes together really nicely once you do this. So if I just turn off the camera calibration, you can really see how much of a difference that makes to the overall image. And this look could not have been achieved if we just left it using the HSL slider. It would have taken a lot more work to get to that point. So what's really done this look here is by having 100%, -100% on the blue primary and only 50% on the red primary. I could increase the red primary to +100, but we get slightly more orange look in those flowers. If we go for 50, we get a slightly more pinky red, which I kind of like the look of. As it goes to the saturation, I'm going to leave the saturation at 0% on both of those. I don't want to mess around too much. If I drop that off, you can see how much that makes a difference to the flowers. You could make them more vibrant, but I really think that's overdoing the image. And again, you can see with the red primary, I think it's quite nice where it is. So I'm going to leave that alone there. And I'm just going to close that up. And I think we're basically done. You can come into the detail and introduce a little bit of noise reduction to soften it up. And then if you wanted to, one nice thing to do would be to come in with the brush tool, maybe lighten up her hair ever so slightly. So just draw over hair and drag up those shadows just to introduce a little bit more lighting in the hair there, and then maybe you could lighten up these other parts of the image here. But I think that's where we're going to leave it today. I don't really want to spend too much more time on this color grade. It's a very quick, very simple color grade. You can see how quickly we did that, and all we really do is introduce some more contrast into the image. Make sure you crush those blacks and brighten up those whites to really make this image pop. Don't drop the vibrance or saturation like we do in lots of our other color grades. You're really making the vibrance increase here, maybe introduce a bit more clarity if you wanted to make it stand out a little bit more, but that's what we're looking for there. And then the next thing to do is just to choose those really important complementary colors in your split toning. So for the highlights, I've gone for a red, and then the shadows, I've gone for the blues. So you can, if you want to, you can just search color wheel on Google, and you can see here you go for oranges and blues, reds and greens, yellows and purples, or you can get these more complicated ones. I think there is one on the Adobe website, but you'll have to search that yourselves. But basically all you're doing is you're choosing a color that works well for your image. Have a look at your photo and see what image, see what your highlights colors really are, what works. Obviously don't go putting like green highlights in if you haven't got slight green highlights, but you can see what highlights you've roughly got, and then go ahead onto your color wheel, choose that highlight, and then that will give you an idea of what to put in your shadows. You can play about with it a little bit, but that's really what you want to be doing for these cinematic looks. One last thing that I would like to mention is with these cinematic looks, a lot of the time you see people introduce a lot of fade into the images, and that's really where the cinematic look comes from, introducing that fade into the image. In this one, we haven't introduced too much, but we've introduced just enough to give it that nice flat matte look. You can see if I took that away, the image would look very different to what it looks like now with some fade. And then again, you can also introduce some more if you wanted to. But that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you did enjoy it. So that's the before photo, that's the before photo, and this is the after photo. You can see how much different that makes with just one click. If you go ahead and buy our cinematic preset pack, you can get 12 of these cinematic presets. But that is how one of these works. I will try and bring together a new demonstration of some of our other preset packs in another video, but we'll see you in the next one. Live long and prosper.